Let's be honest, most people won't tell you directly when they don't like you. Instead, they hide behind fake smiles, hollow compliments, and empty politeness. I've been there too, believing someone was a friend only to later discover they were secretly wishing for my downfall. It stings, but here's the truth. If you don't pick up on the warning signs, you'll waste your time and energy on people who, deep down, can't truly understand you. So let's cut through the BS and talk about the signs that someone dislikes you but hides it. It may be hard to hear, but it's better to face reality than live in denial. They're always making jokes about your flaws. We all know that one person who loves to joke around, especially when the joke is at your expense. They'll poke fun at your quirks, your mistakes, and those little imperfections. They say, "I'm just messing with you." But don't be fooled. Those jokes are often more than just harmless fun. They're carefully crafted digs disguised as humor, meant to chip away at your confidence bit by bit. I remember a time when I was close to someone who always seemed to have something to say about me. How I dressed, how I spoke, even the projects I was working on. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was all in good fun. But as time went on, I noticed a pattern. The jokes were always aimed at my weaknesses, never my strengths. It didn't take long before I started second-guessing myself, wondering if these flaws were as obvious as they made them seem. Here's where things get tricky. People who constantly joke about your flaws aren't doing it out of love. They're testing how much disrespect you'll tolerate. It's a subtle form of manipulation. They want to assert dominance while keeping you in your place, reminding you, in no uncertain terms, that you're beneath them. And the worst part is they get away with it because we've been conditioned to think that if we can't take a joke, we're the ones with the problem. Let's flip the script here. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself when a joke crosses the line. In fact, it's necessary. You deserve to be around people who lift you up, not those who tear you down just to get a laugh. True friends don't need to point out your flaws to feel better about themselves. They celebrate your strengths and help you work through your weaknesses without making you the punchline. I've seen it time and time again. People letting these jokes slide because they think it's easier to keep the peace than speak up. But here's the hard truth. Allowing others to disrespect you, even in the smallest ways, is a slippery slope. It starts with small comments, but over time, those jokes can wear you down and make you question your worth. And the more you let it slide, the more they'll push until you're left doubting yourself. All because you didn't want to seem too sensitive. I learned this the hard way. By laughing along, I was giving them permission to keep going. I was complicit in my own disrespect. It wasn't until I began setting boundaries and pushing back that I noticed a shift, not just in how they treated me, but in how I saw myself. I stopped letting their words define me and started taking control of my own story. Here's my advice. The next time someone cracks a joke at your expense, don't just laugh it off. Ask yourself, is this really funny, or is there something deeper going on here? And if the answer is the latter, don't be afraid to call them out. It might be uncomfortable, and it could even end the friendship. But your self-respect is worth more than someone's misguided sense of humor. In the end, life is too short to surround yourself with people who don't value you. If their idea of friendship is pointing out your flaws, then it's time to find new friends. The people who truly care about you won't need to put you down to feel good about themselves. So stand tall, speak up, and don't let anyone reduce you to a punchline. 2. They give compliments that feel more like insults. We've all been there. Someone gives you a compliment, but instead of feeling good about it, you're left with a bitter aftertaste, like you've just been slapped with a velvet glove. It's the type of compliment that makes you stop and think, wait, was that a compliment or was that an insult? And here's the harsh reality. Often it's a little bit of both. Backhanded compliments are a sneaky way for people to undermine you while pretending to be kind. I remember when I shared a big project I'd been working on for months, feeling proud of it. One person who I thought was supportive said with a smile, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." I stood there stunned. On the surface, it sounded like a compliment, but those last few words, "for someone like You hit me hard. What did that even mean? Was I not supposed to be capable of doing good work? And that's the problem with these so-called compliments. They're not meant to lift you up. They're designed to keep you in your place. It's a power play, a way for the person to subtly remind you that you're not as good as them. They're saying, I see you trying, but you'll never be as good as me. It's toxic, but it's wrapped in such a pretty package that it's easy to miss the poison inside. Let's be real. People who give backhanded compliments are often insecure themselves. They see your potential and strengths, and that scares them. So they use these little digs to make you doubt yourself and ensure you don't rise too high. It's like they're patting you on the back while holding you down with the other hand. Here's the controversial part. We've all done it at some point. Maybe not intentionally, but we've all slipped up and let our insecurities show through in the form of a compliment designed to remind someone of their place. But here's the deep truth. You don't have to accept this disguised hostility. You have the power to reject it and see it for what it truly is. A reflection of their insecurities, not a reflection of your worth. When someone says, "You're smarter than you look," or "This is good considering you're new at this," don't swallow it whole. Call them out on it even if it feels awkward. Because if you don't, you're giving them the power to control how you see yourself, and that's a power you should never hand over to anyone. I've learned to recognize these backhanded compliments for what they are. A mirror reflecting someone else's insecurities. And when you see it that way, their words lose their sting. You can almost laugh it off because at the end of the day, their words say more about them than they do about you. So now when I get a backhanded compliment, I don't just let it slide. I'll respond with something like, "Thanks, but what do you mean by that?" It forces them to confront their own insult, and more often than not, it puts them on the spot. They realize that you're not playing their game, and suddenly, their attitude shifts. The takeaway? Don't let anyone's veiled negativity define you. Whether it's a well-meaning friend, a jealous colleague, or even a family member, remember this. Your worth isn't up for debate. Compliments should lift you up, not tear you down. If someone's words make you question yourself, it's time to question their intentions. Life's too short to waste on people who can't genuinely celebrate your successes. Surround yourself with people who see your value and aren't afraid to show it, without any hidden agendas. They subtly exclude you from plans. It's the little things that sting the most, like realizing that your so-called friends accidentally forgot to invite you to that dinner, that party, or that weekend getaway. They'll swear it was an oversight, that it was a last-minute thing, or worse, they'll assume you were too busy anyway. But let's be real, these aren't accidents. This is social exclusion in its sneakiest form, and it's a clear sign that you're not as valued as you think. I've been on the receiving end of this too many times. I remember checking my phone one weekend and seeing pictures of a group of friends having a great time at an event I would have loved to attend. The kicker, not a single person mentioned it to me beforehand. When I casually brought it up later, they were full of excuses. "Oh, we thought you were busy," or "It was such a last-minute plan." But deep down, I knew the truth. If they wanted me there, they would have made sure I knew about it. And here's where the controversy comes in. This kind of exclusion isn't just thoughtlessness. It's deliberate. It's a way of sending a message without saying a word. They don't want you there, but they don't have the guts to tell you to your face. Instead, they hope you'll just fade out of the group quietly, without causing a scene. It's passive-aggressive and cowardly, but it's also incredibly common. People don't talk about this much because it's easier to pretend it's not happening. It's easier to swallow the excuses, to convince yourself that it really was just a mistake, rather than face the painful truth that you're being pushed out. But here's the thing. If you keep accepting those excuses, you're giving them permission to keep excluding you. You're letting them decide your place in their lives rather than taking control of your own narrative. I had to learn this the hard way. For a while, I kept quiet, letting those accidental exclusions slide, hoping that maybe next time I'd be included. But then I realized that by staying silent, I was allowing myself to be treated as an after. So I did something controversial. I started calling them out on it. I'd say, Hey, I saw you guys went out last weekend. Why didn't anyone invite me? It wasn't easy, and it definitely made things awkward, but it also forced them to confront their behavior. And guess what? The dynamics changed. Some people got defensive, others tried to make up for it. But the bottom line was clear. I wasn't going to let them exclude me without a fight. Here's the deep message. If people want you in their lives, they'll make the effort to include you, no matter how last minute the plan is. And if they don't, then it's time to rethink the value of those relationships. You deserve to be around people who don't make you feel like you're constantly chasing after their approval or their attention. True friends don't forget to invite you. They make sure you're there because they genuinely enjoy your company. So, if you find yourself being subtly excluded from plans, don't just brush it off. Confront it. Ask the hard questions and be prepared for the answers, even if they're not what you want to hear. Because at the end of the day, it's better to know where you truly stand than to be left wondering why you were left out again. And remember, you're not a backup option. You're a priority. Surround yourself with people who treat you like one. They're busy only when it comes to you. We've all heard it before. I'm so busy these days, sorry I can't hang out. It's the perfect excuse, after all, who isn't busy? But what happens when you start noticing a pattern? They're always available for others, posting pictures of their outings, catching up with mutual friends, but when it comes to you, suddenly, they're swamped. Here's the cold, hard truth. They're not too busy. They're just too busy for you. I've been in that frustrating situation more times than I care to admit. I remember reaching out to a friend I used to be close with, trying to set up a time to catch up. Every time I suggested something, they'd have an excuse. I'm working late. I've got a lot on my plate. Maybe next week. Meanwhile, I'd see them hanging out with other people, having a great time, somehow always finding a way to make time for everyone except me. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to see the pattern. The message they were sending was loud and clear. I wasn't a priority in their life anymore. Here's where the controversy comes in. We've been conditioned to accept busy as a valid reason to be pushed aside. But let's be honest, people make time for what and who they care about. If they're constantly busy when it comes to you, it's not about their schedule, it's about their priorities. And that's a hard pill to swallow because it forces you to confront the reality that you might not be as important to them as they are to you. The harsh reality is that busy is often a polite way of saying, I don't want to spend time with you. It's easier for them to blame it on their schedule than to admit that they're choosing not to include you in their life. It's a passive-aggressive way of keeping you at arm's length without having to deal with the confrontation that would come with telling you the truth. They want to keep you on the hook just in case without actually investing in the relationship. I've been on both sides of this. There were times when I was the one making excuses because I didn't know how to tell someone that I'd outgrown the friendship. But being on the receiving end taught me a valuable lesson. It's better to be honest, even if it's uncomfortable, than to string someone along with excuses. When I finally called out my friend on always being busy, the conversation was awkward, but it was necessary. It gave me the clarity I needed to move on and invest my time and energy in relationships where I was valued. Here's the deep message. Your time is precious, and so is your energy. Don't waste it on people who can't be bothered to make time for you. If someone is constantly too busy for you, it's time to reassess the relationship. You deserve to be around people who are excited to see you, who make an effort to include you in their lives, not just when it's convenient for them, but because they genuinely enjoy your company. It's important to recognize that people change, and so do relationships. Sometimes we hold on to people out of habit, nostalgia, or fear of being alone, even when they've clearly moved on. But there's strength in letting go, in acknowledging that you deserve more than someone's leftover time. It's not about being needy or demanding. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away from those who don't value you. 6. They gossip about you. Gossip is like a wildfire, spreads quickly, and once it's out there, it's hard to control. The thing about gossip is that it's rarely as innocent as people claim. When someone you trust talks behind your back, it's not just harmless chatter. They're actively chipping away at your reputation, your trust, and the relationship you thought you had. And let's be real. When someone gossips about you, it's a clear sign that they don't respect you, no matter how friendly they act when you're face to face. I've been the subject of gossip, and trust me, it's one of the most gut-wrenching experiences. There was a time when I confided in someone I considered a close friend, opening up about a personal issue, just needing someone to listen. I trusted them with my vulnerability, but within days, details of that conversation started spreading, twisted, exaggerated, and distorted. It wasn't just a game of telephone, it felt like my private words were being used against me, turned into entertainment for others. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People who gossip about you aren't just venting or sharing their worries. They're playing a power game. Gossip is their way of elevating themselves while dragging you down, and they do it without confronting you directly. It's manipulative, cowardly, and toxic. It doesn't just hurt your reputation, it damages the very foundation of trust that any real relationship should be built on. And here's the kicker. If they gossip to you about others, they're definitely gossiping about you to someone else. It's a pattern. I've seen it too, many times. Someone who loves to spill the tea on everyone else suddenly becomes quiet when they're around you. Guess what? They're probably spilling your tea when you're not around. It's one of the worst kinds of betrayal, because it's happening in the shadows, without you even knowing what's being said or having a chance to defend yourself. I remember confronting the friend who gossiped about me. I was expecting an apology or at least an explanation, but instead they acted like it was no big deal, brushing it off as just a little harmless talk. But here's the thing. Gossip is never harmless. It's a betrayal, plain and simple, and it says far more about the person spreading it than it does about the person it's about. If someone gossips about you, it's time to reevaluate that relationship. True friends don't spread your secrets or use your vulnerabilities as ammunition. They protect your trust and have your back when it matters most. If you find yourself constantly the subject of gossip, don't ignore it. It's a reflection of their character, not yours. At the end of the day, you don't need to rely on people who tear you down behind your back. Surround yourself with those who lift you up, who respect your boundaries, and who protect your trust, like it's their own. The right people will be there for you, not to talk about you, but to stand by you, cheer for you, and help you grow. Don't waste your energy on the ones who gossip. Focus on the ones who show you true kindness, loyalty, and love. Your worth is not defined by their words, but by the strength of your character and the people who truly see and appreciate you for who you are. Keep your head high, and remember, you are worthy of relationships built on respect and trust. So, until next time, act wisely and act stoic.